Welcome to Jacked for June 2024. This will be a series of 4 videos that will cover each element and each session that you guys will look at hitting in the 8-week Jacked for June challenge. There'll be a couple of key points that I'll run through at the start of each video that'll make sure that you understand what each element of the program means. We're going to run through each session, what they're looking for, the intended stimulus of each movement, any key points that you guys need to keep in mind. But just for your information, these are the entirety of week 1's sessions up front, so you have a bit of a preload of what you're looking at getting into in the first week of the challenge. The biggest key point you guys will need to keep in mind is the different colors that'll be prescribed for different exercises. We've got pulling, pushing, legs and posterior chain, and then hybrid, which will be highlighted through the each colors of red, green, purple, and blue. Keep that in mind as we're going through each exercise, as this will give you an understanding of what stimulus we're looking at hitting and what muscle group that particular exercise is tied to. It'll also give you an idea of what type of session it is. As you can see behind me, this is session 1, and it's the majority purple, which means it's legs and posterior chain. Let's get into the program itself. We'll start with week 1, session 1. Week 1, session 1 is primarily squats, cleans, and some pull-up work. The pull-up work is a bit of an accessory that's just going to help us round out our overall pulling work for the week. You're generally going to have pull-ups 3 times in your Jacked for June program in the 4 sessions that we have, but this particular pull-up session is just a bit of an added extra, and it's also a pre-primer for some of our other movements we're looking at hitting in the session, specifically the clean grip deadlifts. Let's start off with the first movement. We're looking at hitting our A component, which is going to be our 8 rep max chin-up. Now, obviously, all of our chin-ups and pull-up movements are strict, so don't skip these movements at all. Got a bit of scaling options here that we can look at following if we are someone who generally struggles with the pull-up itself and requires some assistance to help get our chin over the bar. Starting at the top, we're looking at either a green or a double green band being our thickest scaling option. From there, you'll look at scaling back to black or 2 black bands, purple and 2 purple bands, and then finally red and 2 red bands being our thinnest option of all. Your goal is to try and hit a 8 RM with the lightest band possibly used. Keep track of this because we will be using this as we go through the program as an understanding of our improvement in the movement. That rhymes, must be true. Obviously, big key points, RPE 10. If you're going weighted, you must increase by 2.5 kilos. You might feel like you can only increase by 1, or you might not even be able to add an increase because it's just too much of a challenge to go from body weight to 2.5 kilos. That's absolutely fine. Just stick to body weight for that first week. As we progress through this cycle, these numbers will get lower, so that way you'll be able to add more weight. The reason why we're keeping the testing to just 2.5 kilos is because these are the increments at minimum we'll go through in our final week of the challenge. Movement number 2, we're looking at barbell walkouts. Basically, this is looking at unracking a heavy load, walking out into our squatting stance, setting our position, taking a nice big belly breath, rib cage in, intra-abdominal pressure, fully braced, everything ready to go like you were to squat something heavy, but we're just holding for 10 seconds. It's going to prime our CNS for some heavier loads, and in this particular case, we're going to be looking for very heavy loads. This will allow our next movement to feel nice and easy, which is going to be C, the 1 rep max back squat. Big test. This is one of our 4 key movements for the Jacked for June program, so make sure you warm up thoroughly. We get into the 1 RM squat. Big key points, you must film, and it also must be 2.5 kilo increases for each set. So just be sure to be smart on how we build up for this one. Try and spend about 20 minutes on the 1 RM back squat. Don't spend any more. Don't want to be there for 60 minutes of the session and not get anything else done. Really focus on having an understanding of what you're looking at hitting if you have hit a PR before. If not, just being okay with going to something that's heavy while maintaining good technique will be ideal. Moving on. If we look at component number D, we look at clean grip deadlifts. We've got 3 sets of 3 repetitions looking at 110% of your 1 rep max clean or an RPE 8. You'll see this format on a couple of the movements where we have a split format. If you're someone who hasn't done a 1 rep max clean before, or you're not too sure what it would be right now, you can use that RPE 8 format to make sure that you're going for something that's challenging but not overly heavy. For you guys who do know your 1 RM, 110% might seem heavy on paper, but these are just essentially an overhand grip deadlift. It's just to imitate the clean position and work on pulling strength from the ground. Keeping in mind, you can hook grip these as it is supposed to translate to our clean. Movement number 5 is just some standard dumbbell walking lunges, 2x20 steps at an RPE 9. So each step counting as 1. So left leg 1, right leg 2, left leg 3. You can do these as walking or you can do them as stationary. It's your choice. I'd suggest 2 dumbbells and looking at hitting in a farmer's lunge preferably. You can change up the variation, but the farmer's lunge will be the easiest way to get the most load. Our final component for the Jacked for June session 1, week 1, will be our 45-degree cable glute abductions, looking at 2 sets of 15 reps per side with an intensity set for that final set. I'll explain that in just a moment. Focus on the weak leg first. Nothing's worse than going your strong side doing 15 and not even be able to make that same rep range on the weak leg. Just base it all off the weak leg and the strong leg just matches. You can add a plate under the foot to elevate the non-working leg. If you are someone who's finding that it's grinding along the ground, you'll figure that out when you get it, whether that's you or not, but a 5 kilo plate will suffice for that a little bit of elevation. Finally, intensity set. So either be an asterisk or a plus. I sometimes do asterisk, I sometimes do plus in the program. Both of them mean intensity set in my eyes. So an intensity set just means your final set. So your first set will be 15-15. Your second set will be as many reps as possible at that particular weight you've chosen. The goal is to get just over or as close to 15 as possible. Let's say I do 15 on my first set, both sides, feels pretty good. 15 on my second set, both sides, I was probably looking at an RP 9 to 10, which is a good range. If I'm someone who just overshoots, I do 15 first round. And then the second round, I do like 25 to 30 reps. It gives you a good understanding of how accurate your RPE is. So it's a good way to test that rate of perceived exertion against your own numbers. How close were you to that overall number? That's going to be the goal. Obviously, with the intensity set, same idea. Weak leg sets the number. So let's say weak leg gets 17, the strong leg just matches. Don't do more on the strong side because you can. We want to try and keep them as even as possible to get that weak leg even stronger. Well, guys, that is week 1, session 1, done and dusted, covered. Any questions, leave them in the comments, message us on Instagram, or come see us in person. We'll be able to clear anything up for that program. Otherwise, come back for session 2 of the Jacked for June program.